What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. T-Pain's last album, Revolver, came out in 2011. Since then, his career has had a real rocky path. In 2014, he had a huge hit single with Up Down. And because of that, I thought that he was going to put out an album and, be back on top. But unfortunately, that didn't work out that way. The single came and went, and no album followed it. It was one of the most confusing things I've seen in like the last 5 years. So T-Pain had to struggle a little bit to get to where he's at right now, but he is back with a brand new album titled Oblivion. Honestly, it kind of feels like the album came out of nowhere. I know T-Pain's been talking about how he wanted to put out an album in 2017, and he gave us the T-Wayne EP that had a bunch of unreleased songs from T-Pain and Lil Wayne that they did, almost a decade ago. But when Oblivion came out, I was like, damn, I didn't even know about the title. I didn't know any songs prior to it. It just kind of came out of nowhere with very little promotion. Now let me highlight my favorite song on Oblivion. It's titled CC from DC, and it features Wale. This right here is the most T-Pain sounding record on Oblivion. I mean, really, how catchy is this? She said her name was CC from DC. Like, I just love the entire hook. I love the whole vibe of it all. I can tell that T-Pain took a little bit of inspiration from like that DC sound, but it's still very much consistent with what T-Pain is able to do. I also feel like putting Wale on the record was like the icing on the cake. He's like the perfect feature for this record, and not really because of the whole DC sound / influence. I just feel like Wale fits well on here. Like, yeah, that's a factor, but it's also one of those songs that just naturally feels good for Wale. My least favorite song on Oblivion is titled Goal Line, and it features Black Youngsta. There is a very short list of rappers worse than Black Youngsta. I don't see the appeal at all. I'm sitting here like, okay, I get it. For some people, he's comical outside of the music. He's had like his Vine videos and whatever, and some people find that stuff funny. But when it comes to the actual music, I have heard nothing good from him. He does a lot of unnecessary cussing, and not only that, but it seems like every verse that I've heard from him, and mind you, I've only heard a few. I think some records on Yo Gotti's album, and I know he's been featured on something else. So I've only heard a few verses from Black Youngsta, but every verse that I've heard is pretty much the same. He's talking about he doesn't fuck fans, or he doesn't want to be with you, and he uses a lot of cussing. I don't know. Ultimately, I was just not feeling this song. And that kind of leads me into the album's biggest problem. So my biggest issue with Oblivion is that T-Pain is no longer trying to be the sound. He's chasing it. There's records on here like Straight and Your Friend, just to name a couple, that feel like T-Pain is more trying to mimic flows, ad-libs, and the sounds of this generation. Migos and Ray Shremmerd, for instance. And so I think someone as talented as T-Pain doesn't need to be doing that. He can have his own sound and still make creative music. I mean, CC from DC is good. She Needed Me is another strong one. Classic You with Chris Brown. Like, there's records on here that sound good and they still stay true to T-Pain. But those two records and a few others on here, they ultimately just weren't up to par. With that said, this kind of leads me to my last point. My final thoughts. During an interview with Complex's Everyday Struggle, T-Pain said that this was going to be his last album under RCA Records, and essentially Oblivion is a cash grab. Now that makes a lot of sense after you listen to the album. I feel like the songs that I highlighted that I don't like will end up being the most streamed and the most successful ones from the album. So it makes sense. He's just creating something real quick. I'm hoping that T-Pain's best material is coming forward for him. It will be on his next album, and with that regard, I hope that it's not another 6 years before we get another T-Pain album. I was just disappointed in Oblivion. There's a couple good songs on here, but ultimately I think this will be a forgettable album in his discography. So those are my thoughts on T-Pain's new album, Oblivion. After you listen to this one, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. And then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter at Sermons Domain. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching. And until next time, peace.